binding, tuning, and flight testing our sub 250 gram quadcopter, this time on Hak5.
Hello and welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen.
My name is Shannon Morse.
It's your weekly dose of Technolust.
And we are still building a drone.
Yes, we are. We're going to wrap it up here in this one because we're going to make it wiggle.
Do I finally get to fly? Because you teased me last week and said I would fly and I didn't.
We're in the tuning phase, so we'll be doing, it will take air or take flight. Hopefully it will not wobble like this too much, and then we're going to tune it, and it's going to be fantastic.
Should I wear safety goggles?
At all times. In fact, viewers, if you're watching Hak5 right now and you don't have safety glasses on, we warned you there may be some propellers, so you might want to put them on.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even
Make sure to screw those on before you start them flying around.
Mm-hmm.
That would be bad.
Just think in the future when people are like watching this in VR and stuff and there's like propellers going everywhere. And, oh, you know what? Actually, I forgot to mention this, but I have an idea for a way to do Hak5 with some VR stuff. I'd like to do a test to see if people would like to sit in the driver's seat and host an episode of Hak5. I totally hadn't run this by Shannon yet. But you know that camera on, we have the ability to make the video where it's like you could put, let us know in the comments, if you've got like a cardboard or a Gear VR or you just like doing that wacky stuff with your phone, the VR cinema stuff, we could put you in the driver's seat and you could host an episode of Hak5. You could be the disembodied body. You could be a disembodied Snubs. You know what, you'd probably want to be a disembodied, the view is better from this angle.
Ew, you're weird.
Wait, that was weird.
You're creepy.
View is better from that angle. What were we talking about, Shannon?
Drones.
We're building a drone.
Yes.
That's right.
So today we need to bind this to this.
Yes.
We need to bind the drone to the actual transmitter.
So we're going to take the quadcopter, there you go, and we're going to take, in this case, a Devo 7E, which happens to be, you know, I should preface this by saying like this might not be the best first controller for people because it's kind of small, but it is inexpensive. It does do some open source firmware. If you've got something like one of these or one of these, I'm a big fan of the orange TX from Hobby King just because they're cheap and get the job done. Otherwise, a Spectrum, and we're going to be focusing on the Spectrum protocol. But again, we're making this very generic. So these same principles. I'm not going to get into too much of the nitty-gritty of each individual transmitter because they have all of their idiosyncrasies.
Yes, of course.
So of course, just check your manual for those. But we're going to go over the basics of binding.
Okay.
So it's basically what we need to do is make this, which transmits signals like put the throttle up and pitch and yaw and
make
roll.
the drone move.
Make the drone go. It's saying drone go, and it's transmitting that out over whatever frequency, in this case 2.4 gigahertz. And then our receiver on here, which is very tiny, you can see this guy right here.
A little lemon.
Yeah, we're using a little Lemon RX. You can see it right there poking out the side. And this is actually what we call a satellite receiver. It's actually made to plug into a much bigger receiver, like something like this, and augment it with additional reception capabilities. The reason you would do this is if you had a much bigger craft and you have a lot of surface area here, you might want to give yourself a little bit of diversity where you'd have one in the back, and maybe you'd have like one in the front up here, and you'd try to like keep them away from the motors and such. This is such a small craft, we're going to be able to get away with just a satellite receiver.
Just the one?
Yes, and for many of these small builds, if you've been watching the series, you know that the purpose of this particular small build, this being a 210 millimeter rotor-to-rotor kind of almost X quadcopter here, is to be under 250 grams.
I hope we actually reached or are less than 250 grams. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna place a bet here. I'm gonna bet that it's around 225.
225?
Yeah.
All right. We actually have everything that we need here to measure it now. If you've been following along, you see that we've got our power distribution board, our flight controller, all our ESCs, the motors. Yeah. I'll put down for a. I'll put a mic pack on it and say 230.
230, okay.
So yeah, let's take a look. So we have basically all of the primary components to get in the sky, everything except for our FPV package, which we'll be doing in a later series. So if you want to look at this, and you know what I will do is I will, as I've been told, tear it. I will not tar it, I will tear it. So I'll put the cup there, and then I'll hit tear, because I care, and then I'll just pop those screws in. Is that enough, really? Okay, so a gram and, wow, half a gram in screws, and then everything else. And the battery, of course, 230.8.
Oh, man, you were right on, cheater.
Well, yeah.
You're cheating.
I know. I'm going to put my mic pack back here again. You know, actually, we could go a little less. In fact, if we swapped out, instead of using a 1,000 milliamp battery pack, we could use a 500 milliamp battery pack.
Yeah, it's much
Of course,
smaller.
we'll only get half the flight time, but as you can see, now we're 204 grams. So if we got into a jam and really needed to show that this is under 250, we could just use a smaller pack. But no, I want the long flight time that this is going to provide.
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about binding. Typically, depending on your controllers, what it speaks, whether it's like Spectrum or Futaba, whether it's S-Bus or whatever, there's all these different protocols. You just want to make sure that you have matched protocols, so that what it's transmitting is what the receiver is expecting to hear.
It's basically they're both going to be talking the same language.
Exactly. And so in this case, we've been using Lemon RX, which speaks the Spectrum protocol. It says right there, DSM2, and that is in fact what the Devo 7E here is going to do.
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and bind those. A word on binding. Thus far, we've been talking very generically, but we have also been using a NAS32 or NAS32 or NAS32 flight controller. Some of those have the ability to bind on the board.
Okay.
However, some don't, and so just to be more generic, I'm going to show the good old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned
Yeah.
way, okay.
And so to do that, actually, what I'm going to do is pull out this, which is the broken remains of one of my first builds, which was totally overbuilt with just massive 1100 kV heavy motors and 30 amp ESCs, and the whole thing was just crazy. But you'll notice right here, what we have on this is a Spectrum receiver. This is an 8-channel.
Yeah.
You'll notice that we have a different servo lead here coming off of each of our different channels. We talked about channels last week. And these speak PWM. Another common thing that you'll
Pulse width modulation.
Exactly. Another one that you'll find is PPM, or pulse position modulation.
Oh, okay.
Either way, basically, a bunch of stuff, and it's being modulated onto the wire.
Okay.
These little satellites here come off of these leads right here, and they basically just speak serial. So what we'll do is actually take our craft here, and I'm just going to pull our Lemon RX off of that.
Oh my gosh,
You'll notice
destroy the thing.
Yeah, sorry, you'll notice the propellers are coming off because I have not screwed those down, because we will actually not be using the propellers until the very end because we don't want to hurt ourselves, which is good. Daring plus power tools equals fun. So I'm going to go ahead and plug our Lemon RX into, there we go, into this, and now we can just power this on. This is insane, by the way. This is a 5,000 milliamp hour 3-cell instead of a 2-cell.
That thing's gigantic.
It kind of is, and I'm only getting 15 minutes of flight time. Sure, we'll only get about 8 or 9 out of this, but still, this battery in of itself is 375 grams.
Jeez.
So this battery weighs more than our quadcopter all up.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and what I'll do is talk about the bind plug. So you'll notice here on the side we have all of these different auxiliary channels. Well, these are like throttle. They're actually written right there. It says throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder, gear, and then you've got a couple of aux channels which we can bind to different functions. Like for instance, on the front here, I have a nice camera with like a servo that I'm totally destroying right now.
So I would say those are pretty self-explanatory.
Right, but the very last one says bind.
Bind, yeah.
And so the way that these servo leads work, if you take a look at these, actually here, why don't you get close on that? Basically, what we'll end up here is we've got power, we've got ground, and we've got signal.
Yeah.
And so for each of these, to enable bind on our receiver right here, all we have to do is short out the ground and the signal, which are always, so the voltage is most commonly in the center. And so you'll see what I have here is this is just a little wire with some DuPont pins there, common stuff that you'll find with like Arduino kits. And these just plug right into there. and short those two out. So what will happen is when I boot this up, apply power to it, it's going to go into a special bind mode where it's going to advertise, and we can actually hack the protocol and get into the way that it works. But it's basically saying, hey, I'm available for binding.
Cool.
And then you turn on the transmitter into its bind mode, and it says, I'm looking for some aircraft to bind with.
So it's very similar to when you're trying to connect to a Bluetooth speaker from your phone. You have to put them both into that Bluetooth binding mode until you can actually see each other and connect.
Yeah. Okay. Essentially, we're gonna pair these.
It works very similarly.
Very similarly, we're gonna pair these, and once they're paired, what's nice about that is this is a one-time thing. So we do that to this satellite receiver. Now this satellite receiver is bound to the controller, and we no longer need the big, ugly box of doom, which weighs just way too much.
So what would somebody do if they didn't have the big box of doom?
Then, if you just got a satellite receiver, then you would have to use your flight controller in software. Remember, we have this guy actually soldered directly to our flight controller. So if you look at all the little wires in there, we have this little pigtail coming off the back. Where did it go? It is right here. So this little Mullix here, that guy is soldered directly onto this board. And so what that means is, in software, we can actually instruct the flight controller to go into bind mode for that satellite receiver.
Okay, cool.
The problem is it doesn't work on all boards. It's been borked in some versions of the NAS32, and I'm old-fashioned.
So it's easier to do it this way.
For me, it is, but every flight controller is different. So I'm trying to be a little generic here. The nice thing, though, is once we do this once, this satellite is bound with the transmitter, and we should be good to go.
Cool. All right.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply power. You'll notice that it took the rotors off of this thing. So always make sure before you apply power to anything that you have disconnected those. And so you'll notice here, as soon as I do that, you don't have to stand back. There's no motors.
Something might blow up.
OK, so take a look at that blinking LED there.
OK.
OK. So what we see here is this is blinking rapidly, letting us know that it's in bind mode. And then we also see on our satellite receiver it's blinking.
Yes.
OK. So in my controller, what I'm actually going to do is this is going to be different depending on what controller you have. I actually have, this is one setup for another very similar quadcopter. I'm actually going to duplicate this one. I'm going to say copy to, and I'm going to choose a new model. I don't know, model number, what am I up to now?
Wow, you have a lot.
Model number 15. And there we go, and I'm going to name it something like, oh, we haven't named this aircraft yet, Shannon. It's so exciting. What do we want to call it?
Can we call it Little Mint?
Okay.
Little Mint.
L-I-L
Mint.
Mint.
Is my name too complicated?
No, I'll get it.
I was thinking it's a little baby. Little Mint. Or we could call it like Seb and a leopard thong or something like that.
No one would want to see that. There we go. I have that on authority.
Little Mint.
All right, cool. Little Mint. So I'll come down here in my menu, and this is going to differ based on your controller. Like, for instance, some of the Spectrums will actually have a button back here that you'll hold down while you boot it up. But I'll come down to bind, and you'll notice that I have it set to DSM2 protocol.
Yeah.
I can actually switch that to DSMX, or this particular one supports, oh, notice Hubsan.
Hubsan.
Yeah, there's something really cool about the Devo 70. This is actually running some open source firmware called Deviation, so don't expect to find this out of the box. Totally worth hacking because you get all of these different protocols that it'll support out of the box, including, as you just saw, USB HID. But DSM2, oh, in fact, even Walkera. So lots of different protocols this thing can speak.
I don't know
what any of that means. We're going to speak DSM2.
All right, DSM2.
Because that is what it says right there on the Lemon RX. It says DSM2.
Yeah.
That's how we figure that out. Okay. And then all I have to do is go over here and, to bind, and then hit OK on this. And I actually want to hold this back a little bit. I don't want it to be like right next to it. And we can get into that later. It has to do with failsafes, but I'll hit bind. Oh, I have to have the throttle all the way down.
Oh.
And I hit bind, and it says entering bind, 3, 2, 1, beeps. And now, if we take a look back at this guy, you notice that that blinking LED is not as rapid as it used to be.
Yeah.
Yes. So now we are bound.
It's about the same as this one now.
Yes. So that's it. If we wanted to now, if this were the craft we were about to fly, we would just go ahead and unplug that bind plug and then power cycle it, and we'd be good to go.
Okay.
We don't need to do that because we're not flying this guy. So I'm just going to unplug the behemoth that we just borrowed for its spectrum receiver.
Thank you, behemoth.
Yes. That one was named Frappuccino.
Oh. So this works well. Mint.
Yes. Oh, well, there we go. Mint and Frappuccino together at last. Stole some parts from it, too.
That sounds really good.
No, we have to finish the show first, Shannon.
All right. Starbucks later.
Okay, so next thing is we got to plug this guy back in, and now we need to get this guy connected to our computer, much like we did last week when we plug it into the
flight controller thing?
The flight controller software, which is Clean Flight. I'm blanking. And I'm unscrewing the top of this for a reason. So this is kind of I don't want to say an error in our design. I knew going into this that this is how it was going to be. But for cleanliness with our wires, what I've gone ahead and done is you'll notice that this arrow right here, this points to forward, which is important because we don't want our craft flying sideways. That said, we can in software change which way forward would be.
Oh.
Why is that useful? Well, here's why. This right here is the micro USB port. You'll notice if we were to rotate this flight controller 90 degrees, the USB port would be on either of the sides, which I would say would be easily accessible.
Yeah.
Considering that I have not done that, I now have to take the top plate off, which makes this not easily accessible.
Yeah.
But that's okay because we're only going to be taking the top off when we do some initial tuning.
Okay.
And initial setup, and after that we'll pretty much be good to go.
Cool.
But it's just something to keep in mind. So if you've been following along verbosely, you're now encountering the same issue we have, which is fine. But some people really like for it to be off the side. I prefer this way because I like all of my cable mess to be in the front.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll leave that off. Let me go ahead and now got the satellite receiver plugged in.
Plug it in.
And get that.
Light it up.
All right.
It's lit up.
Great.
And look, it's blinking. This is very exciting.
All right, and we got Little Mint selected. And you'll notice it's an airplane. So we'll get into the transmission now as I go ahead and connect the computer. And I connect, and you'll notice that if we wiggle it on the table, you'll see it wiggle on there. And we've already gone ahead and calibrated our accelerometer, magnetometer last time. So let's go ahead down here and take a look at a few of our settings. So we have two different UARTs. We've talked about UARTs in the past before.
Yes.
Yeah, you have them on Raspberry Pis and stuff like that. It's typically what we use over serial to connect to and get like a...
It's like universal.
Oh man, don't make me think. Yes. So there are two UARTs on this board, and we are going to use one of them to connect to our Spectrum satellite receiver that we've just bound.
Okay.
So we just have to go ahead here and check this and say, okay, UART number 2 is speaking this baud rate, 115200, and we are going to use it as a receiver, a serial RX. RX is for receiver, TX is for transmitter. We don't have telemetry. If we did have one of these protocol telemetry things, we can enable that, which would allow our transmitter on the ground to receive some data back from the quadcopter in the sky, stuff like battery level and stuff like that. We don't have that. This is very basic. I'm going to hit save and reboot. It is now rebooting, and it is ready, and we all look good. Next thing is to come down to our configuration. We have this set in Quad X. There are a bunch of different configurations like Quad Plus. We're going to stick with the basic Quad X because that's what we built.
Yeah.
And a couple of things that we're going to enable here under features. Motor stop. Don't spin the motors when armed. We want that enabled. What that means is there's an arming procedure on the transmitter. It's typically a direction that you move the throttle to, like say bottom right or bottom left, things of that nature. And when you do that, the quadcopter goes into an armed state. Many quadcopters will actually, once they're armed, start spinning up the motors. If it's in your hand, well, first of all, don't arm it when it's in your hand. But
I know what you mean. The Hubsons do that.
Yeah, I find it safer to just leave motor stop enabled.
Okay.
So what'll happen is when you arm it, the LEDs will blink a different pattern, the little chirpy chirp will go doo-doo-doo-doo or whatever, and then we'll know that it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple other things that we need to keep in mind here is our receiver mode. Now, we've got the option for PPM and PWM, as I've mentioned before, and as we know, those are, in fact, we just looked at one. That big honkin' ugly guy on Frappuccino there is PWM.
Okay.
Where for each channel you have a physical wire that is sending out pulse width modulated information on, well, what it's going to do with its ailerons and elevators.
Yeah. This one is the other one.
This is serial.
Serial.
So all we have to do here is check RX serial, and then come down here for serial receiver. We have to choose which version. Now, we know that we're using a Spectrum. We know that we're using DSM2. The other little thing here is that for our build, we're using Spectrum 1024.
Why?
I don't know the exacts. I can't remember if it has to do with the fact that it's DSM2 and not DSMX, or it may in fact be my transmitter. So other transmitters might have higher resolution, but that's what this is. We're talking about resolution here. So when I throw the throttle all the way up, this would be 512, and all the way down would be negative 512.
Yeah.
Right? So for a total of 1024.
Okay.
Right. A beefier controller, right, like that Spectrum DX8 down there, might go, you know, to positive 1024 and negative 1024 for a total of 2048. Gives you more precision. Think about it like mouse DPI in gaming.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. For ours, it's not that high resolution. That's okay. We're just going to be bashing this thing through the trees anyway. So I've got that selected. And let me come down here and see if there's anything else that we want to indicate just yet. No, we'll end up we'll loop back around when we talk about batteries later, but we'll eventually enable that battery voltage monitoring system.
Okay.
And what that'll do is basically give us an alarm when our battery gets too low.
Oh,
but
cool.
suffice it to say, for right now, for getting our receiver going, that's it. Save and reboot, rebooting, ready, everything's good to go.
Okay.
So now we can finally, and we'll talk about fail-safes another time, we can come down to, and we'll do PID tuning after the break, we can actually map our controller. Now you'll notice, hey, look at that. This is pretty cool.
Oh.
So why don't you go ahead, grab that controller there, and I'm hoping that maybe we can do this way here. I'll switch to you, and I'm going to hold this here. And you can see this right here is roll, pitch, yaw, throttle, and then auxiliary 1 through 3. So that red bar at the top that's going up and down is going up and down as you're moving what control?
Yep.
Well, what controller are you moving, Shannon?
That's the throttle.
Yes. What's moving on the software, though?
Roll. So that we need to change it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So wiggle those all around. So we figured out throttle is roll. What about your rudder or your pitch, right? So
pitch
is your throttle.
Okay, so pitch is throttle.
Okay.
We might need to write these down.
Yeah. Now, if
and
you
then
hit your
sideways.
yaw, well, your yaw is yaw, so that's good.
Okay, so that's good. And then this one going side to side.
Yep, your ailerons is your pitch. So those are supposed to be your elevator. So everything is all out of whack.
So we can fix those, right, in software?
Yes, and actually, this is the beautiful thing about standards with this this hobby is there are none. No, there are a few. There are so many. Just choose one. And as you can see, the channel map here is set to AETR 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll also notice that there's JR Spectrum Kropner, right? Which now switches it to TAER. That AETR and TAER is throttle, aileron, elevator, and the other one. Roll. Sorry, I'm totally out of it today. But you get the idea is we just needed to switch it over into another mode. So now red is roll.
Do you have to apply or anything?
I do, and the resolution on this laptop is not enough that I can see the menu. So hang on a second while So now it's TAER. And so if you hit the throttle now, go ahead. Yeah.
Yay,
that
throttle!
is exactly as we're expecting to see. So the blue throttle goes up and down for throttle. Go ahead and hit the yaw. It should stay the same. That's the darker
yaw
blue.
Is this one, right?
No, yaw is on the left, and it's moving side to side. There you go. That's yaw. And now pitch, which is on the right, going up and down. And then roll, which is on the right, going right. Okay.
There it goes.
So the other thing that we need to make sure is that up is, for these bars here, up should be to the right, and right should be to the right. Down should be to the left, a negative value, and left should be also a negative value.
Okay.
So go ahead and for each channel make sure. So for throttle, up is up, down is down, cool. And then for yaw, right is increase and left is decrease, good. And for pitch, up is increase and down is decrease, and then for roll. Okay, so there we go.
Yeah.
I mention that because the first time you ever do this, you may notice that you might have a one of your channels inversed.
Okay.
And for most controllers, it's really just a matter of going into setting. I prefer to just do it on the controller side, but you can do it on either. And I just go into the controller and I just say flip the channel, inverse it.
Oh, yeah, easy enough.
Easy enough. And we can spend time if people are really interested in the Devo 7E because it's super hackable, and as you can see, there's lots of fancy
Kinda
stuff
wanna hack one.
going on with that particular one. So yeah, that's what you need to make sure.
Okay.
So now that we have that going, there's one other thing that we need to keep in mind in order to get our, to be able to arm this.
What's that?
We need to be able to set endpoints such that we can meet a certain threshold that is required by this particular flight controller, the NAS32, to enable us to arm it.
Okay.
And by default, the controller may not reach those endpoints. So let me show you here what I mean. If I jack the throttle all the way up, you'll notice that it goes to 1943, which I'm sure was a fantastic year. And if I go all the way down, it's 1058, which I'm sure was just full of disease and pestilence. So if I go to the right on yaw, it's 1919, left 1077, 76. Okay, same thing with all of these. I'm hitting about, on the high end, 1856 and 1841. The reason that I mention that is you need to be able to reach at least, I think it's 1800 or around 1820 in the in both the throttle and the yaw.
Okay.
Now, depending on your controller, it's going to differ. So for instance, on my controller, I'll have to just go into my model menu and go down to my mixer. And a mixer is basically where you can set different values for each of your channels. So you'll see I have aileron, which is channel number 2.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that exclamation point before there. That's actually the way that the Devo indicates that it's reversed.
Oh, okay.
So I've actually swapped that one because it was just easier to do in the controller. Same thing as my first channel is throttle. In fact, you'll notice T, A, E, R.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, as long as that corresponds. And so you'll see that for my throttle channel, I have it set to a simple mode. And if I go into that simple mode, I can see the source is the throttle, which is me defining that it's this stick.
Yeah.
And you can set up all these curves and stuff. We're not going to get into that right now. But you'll see the scale and any sort of offset. So this is set to 100%. But if I go to my aileron, I can see that I may have a different offset. So actually 80, that's for my dual rate. So maybe it's just yaw that was off on this particular controller. I think it was. So 100% on that one. Okay. And then our rudder, well, down here, our rudder. So for my controller, oh, I guess I didn't have to switch it. Okay. Yeah, that was rudder. Is it elevator? Oh, all right. Well, all these look good. Okay, I just point this out though, because depending on your controller, you may need to extend the endpoint at which your whatever your channel will receive, so that you can get this into a
binding mode.
No, not a binding mode. Into the armed mode.
Or yeah. Armed
so
mode.
For this, arming would be down and to the right.
Okay.
And then I should also point out that there are different profiles. That's kind of out of the scope of right now, but as we get into PID tuning, you can actually set up like different profiles depending on your flight style, or if you're just testing some stuff out. So you can have more agile if you, I forget what.
So you could use the same drone, but for more than just one thing.
Yeah, so you could like turn it on, and I forget what the stick combo is. I think it's like up and to the right and some stuff, but you can basically choose like, okay, I'm flying leisurely today, so you can like hit a key combo as it were.
Keys.
Yeah, and then put it into a different profile and have totally different settings. Okay, so the other thing before we move on is the switches.
Switches.
So you'll notice that on this.
Oh, those switches.
Yes.
Yeah.
So notice on this particular controller, I've got these two switches at the top. That's what makes it a 6-channel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And so when I look at it on the laptop, you'll also notice that.
Oh.
And. OK, so the next thing is to actually bind those to something. So the one on the left is my auxiliary channel 1, and the one on the right is auxiliary channel 2. I don't have an aux 3 because it's just a 6-channel remote, but you know, depending on your remote, you might have more.
Okay.
So the next thing is to go in here and actually choose, and actually it's funny, you can see like as you move these, you get nice little like,
oh, cool.
Ooh,
nice little graph.
Pretty, yeah, which can be cool. We actually need to come down here and choose our modes. So, modes. All right, we've got a couple of different modes, and we can add these ranges and apply them to our switches. What does that mean? Well, let's start with something super, super simple, and actually just talk about the beeper first, because it's
the
not
beeper.
The beeper.
Is this the audio beeper that we soldered on there?
Yeah,
okay.
The one that actually doesn't, the piezo that doesn't actually have a magnet, so I guess it doesn't matter that it's close to the flight controller, so thank you in the comments. Learn something new every day. The beeper is useful. I would like to usually bind that to the left, or in my case, aux 1, so that I can just turn it on and it'll go beep, 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 which is fantastic for when you crash in the woods somewhere and you're like, where did I land?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and hit add a range. And then we choose a channel. So aux 1 is my channel of preference. And you'll notice that when I flip this switch, down here at the bottom, you'll notice that little dot keeps moving. So all I have to do is choose a position. So when I flip the switch down, it goes down here to, I don't know, between 1,000 and 1,200. And then you just move this range. So you say, if this auxiliary channel is in this range right here, then to do whatever you asked it to do, in this case, beeper. So when the switch is flipped down, beeper is on. Switch is flipped up, nothing.
Well, that's easy.
Yeah, similarly, I could add another thing, like, I don't know, I could add this and then bind it to the same one and move it over there. So then it's like choosing between the two. And actually, I don't want to do that. And I shouldn't have done that in this resolution because it means that I now have to come over here and hit X. By the way, 1024 by 768, not so great. Need to get a new laptop for this. But there's our beeper. OK. Real quick, flight modes. We are going to be flying in a, let's do horizon mode.
Horizon, okay.
We'll be using this switch to go between what is called rate mode and horizon mode. And then there's also angle. This is the part where it's specific to our flight controller and our software. But essentially, on most modern flight controllers, you'll have a varying degree of manual versus automatic modes. And so the way that they call your manual mode in this particular realm with the Naze and the Clean Flight software is people call it rate mode or manual or some other things. But essentially what it means is you're getting very little help from the flight controller to stabilize the aircraft.
Okay.
Which is good because it puts you in the pilot's seat, but it can also be difficult to learn if you're new to it and you're used to something more like a hub stand, which is more of like, you know, you let go of the controls.
Yeah.
And it kind of self-stabilizes.
Oh.
So on Clean Flight, there's a few different ways. There's angle or horizon. It depends on how much you want the flight controller to get involved.
Yeah.
And it depends on who you ask, like which one you should learn on. I say go ahead and just have them both, so you can, you know, if you're used to something that self-stabilizes.
Your preference is to have them both.
Well, my preference is to have something like angle or horizon on a switch, so that if you get scared when you're learning to fly in rate mode, which is the best mode, obviously, because it's like the one that puts you in manual control. You know, you're not fighting against a computer. It's just there to aid you. And so when you go into a turn, it's not like trying to oscillate weird and fight the turn.
Yeah.
It's also nice to be able to be like, I'm going to jam and flip a switch and then be in a mode that is going to self-level for you.
That's cool.
Yeah. So in order to do that, all I'm going to do is go ahead and bind at, did we choose horizon or angle? I'll go with horizon. So I'm going to choose auxiliary 2, and I'm going to make it so that when the switch is up, we are in horizon mode. And then obviously when the switch is down, we won't be in horizon mode, which means that we're going to default to rate.
Okay.
So there we go. We're going to save that profile now. That's going to be copied over to the flight controller. And when we get back, the last part before we get this guy in the sky is we need to tune the PIDs. So we're going to be doing some math. It's time once again to take a moment to thank our awesome sponsor, Domain.com. You guys have heard us talk about it. It's what Shannon and I use whenever we need to get our awesome ideas into website form, and they do this with a very simple domain discovery system that helps you pick out the perfect domain name for you, as well as their super easy checkout process. I mean, it's affordable, it's reliable, it's easy to use. I was just in them this weekend updating some DNS stuff, so super simple. Love the guys over there, and they're huge fans of Hak5, so they want to hook you up with a coupon code. It's HAK5, and when you use that at checkout, you're going to get yourself an extra 15% off. And you know what? Go ahead and tweet them at domain.com and say, thanks for supporting Hak5 all these years. And when you think domain names, think domain.com.
We're back and it's now time to get flying.
That's true. We are going to do that. In fact, we're going to skip the entire section on PID tuning because I want to show you why PID tuning is important.
Okay.
And it's a big, long process, which means next week we're going to be able to get into the nitty-gritty of why integrals and deviations and the other one.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
And we're already running a little short on time.
But that's okay, because this is actually going to, if you want to just cut to the chase and steal my PIDs, if you're building this exact craft, I'll put them in the description below.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think that will set us up nicely to talk about next week, the important part of PID tuning. And so I want to just go ahead and take to this, guys, with some, actually these aren't default, I tweaked them ever so slightly because I don't want this to go horribly awry, but it's also the reason why we have safety goggles.
Yes, it is.
I say safety goggles, but mine are actually German Rave goggles.
You're so cool.
Ready to go.
Mine are actually safety goggles, and they smell like safety goggles.
I feel like I need like a scarf and like a leather cap.
I feel like I need a lab coat.
Actually, before we even get that far, we need to put the propellers on. You'll notice that this entire time we haven't had them on because we don't want to get hurt. But now we do want to get hurt. So let's go ahead and take a look. There's something that I want to point out. Fun little trick to this. And this is a way, this is specific to our flight controller, the NAS32 with this, this X configuration instead of a plus. But that is, you'll notice with all of our propellers that they are clockwise and counterclockwise. You know, following around that we had to swap these, which is why they aren't electric taped down. But these are going to go one direction, these are going to go another direction. An easy way to remember is, since we have this facing forward, this is the front of the craft, that we want the front ones to have the curves of the curvature of the propeller blades to be facing inwards on the front. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that there and that there, and now we have our innies in the front. And then the other thing to keep in mind, and this isn't specific to the this particular quadcopter, but this is particular to any quadcopter, is the mating pair for this is going to be, nope, that's the opposite, hang on. Aha, you can tell because if you sit it right on top and it sits flush, then that's the same propeller. Then this will not go behind it, but it will go diagonally from it. So there we go, which means that obviously this one will go here. Yes, and the reason for that is these are spinning anti-clockwise and these are spinning clockwise. There you go.
Got it.
Yes. The last bits for us are we have to, since we're not using spinners, we're using these special props that have like the 3 holes instead of just the single 5mm. You just got to pop those guys on. And it's just a matter of screwing all of these down. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I should mention 2 important things here, and that is, firstly, you want to make sure that your screws aren't too long. Similar to how when we were mounting the motors, we don't want the screw to actually touch the wire bushings, those copper wires in there, because that would cause all sorts of not goodness. And the other thing is that you probably want to, when it comes to screws and motors, whether it's for putting the props on or mounting the motors, look into a little bit of a dab of Loctite. It's basically, it comes in varying colors. I use the blue stuff. And you just put a little dab on the end of your screw before you screw it in, and basically make sure that you got a nice good bite and that the screws don't unscrew themselves over time. I've gone ahead and fitted this with a strap so I can just hold the battery down. I've also put a little bit of Velcro on the top as well. I'll go ahead and tuck this Molex into this hole for the moment, and then these will mate. The other important thing here, Shannon, is we talked about a little bit about center of gravity.
Yeah.
This is super important because if we've got too much in the front, too much in the back, we talked about trimming last week, and we want to trim as very little as possible. I like to do it by feel. So a nice, easy way to do this is if we just take a look at our quadcopter, you'll notice that I've put the battery not perfectly in the middle, but ever so slightly forward.
Yeah.
And that's because I have a little bit more weight here in the back with the satellite receiver and some stuff. So I'm just going to pinch it and hold it lightly from the center, and that's it. And I can notice, I can just kind of feel it. You get a nice like feel for it. I'm like, okay, so it's ever so slightly forward. I might want to move it back like just a smidge. You don't have to get that precise, but you'll know if you pick it up and it does this, that you got a problem.
It'll be kind of obvious.
Yes, so I just want to throw that out there, and yeah, that's pretty level.
Okay.
So then we're at the point where we can go ahead. I've got the controller turned on. I have the throttle all the way down. We have motor stop enabled. And I'm using somewhat default PIDs to show you why it's important to tune it, and then we'll get into next week all of the fun math bits.
Wow, those props get really close to
Oh
that
yeah,
top
take a look at those tolerances. This is what I'm talking about. It gets really fun. Yeah, I know, right?
It's so close.
Yeah, it is. It's actually very close. It's actually concerningly close. Thanks for bringing that up. We are within, oh, that's a millimeter, almost. That's almost a millimeter.
Almost.
Same thing over here and over here. So our tolerances are super thin. If we needed to, Shannon, we could actually loosen up the motor mounts just a bit,
I guess we
and kind of
push them out a little bit.
Ever so slightly, we could squish them out. I think we're going to be okay. There's very little flex in these carbon fiber. Another fun thing, since we've got it on this cam, and I've got the what do you call this thing here? Measurer device. Man, I'm really blanking today. It's a micrometer. Check this out. I'm so proud of this. Even with the nylon screws, we're talking about 24.78 millimeters. And yeah, 24.67. So
that's skinny.
This is a very, very flat quadcopter. I mean, to the point where this is almost the height of many quadcopters.
I could totally fit that in my
alone.
purse.
Well, I'm going to guarantee you that it is very nicely going to fit in the case it was designed for.
That's
so
awesome.
Love me these Pelican cases. All right, let's get to flying.
Okay.
So we plug this guy in. We took all of those precautions. We're going to get all the superfluous stuff off the table.
Fly. The beeper works.
Okay, so that's beeped to let us know it's going. You'll notice that our LED is blinking there. We are bound. Another way that I can check to see that we're bound is by flipping the switch. That's the one that we bound to the beeper.
Yeah.
Similarly, we have this up right now, which means I'm in horizon mode. If I flip this down, you can hear just one little beep saying, okay, now you're in a different mode.
Okay.
If you wanted to actually look down in there, you could see that the LEDs changed. Do you want to get that? Sure. So basically, this is in horizon mode, and now the red LED is there and the blue. And when I go into rate mode, it's just the blue.
Okay.
Similarly, our Lemon RX is just going to keep blinking here. I think we may, in fact, decase the Lemon RX and move it slightly just to save a little bit of weight later on.
Yeah.
But we'll do that when we get to the FPV stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So if I put the control stick to the very bottom right and hold it for a moment, you hear that 2 beeps, and then the beep immediately after. Okay. So what that did was it told me that it was armed.
Okay.
It waited for a moment, it didn't see any signal, and then it's not armed anymore. If I hit the throttle, nothing is happening. That's good. It means if you accidentally arm it, or if you arm it and then you walk away, when you come back, it's not still going to be armed.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so what I need to do is, I want the quadcopter, the back of it to be facing me. That's very important because I want left to be left and right to be right. Now, obviously, I'm an accomplished pilot. I know what I'm doing, so I don't mind doing what we call the maiden flight here on the table, live on the show, because what could go wrong. Normally, you would do this out in a field, but we just don't want to take the studio out to the field right now. So,
of course.
I'm going to go ahead and just give it a little bit of throttle. Hang on, let me bring this back some so that it's in the frame a little bit better.
Oh.
Okay, so already you notice there's a problem.
Yeah.
Not all of the motors spin up at the same time.
Why?
That is because we did not calibrate the motors. We could, in fact, flash the ESCs with different firmware and calibrate them and go through a calibration process in the software. And it's very good practice to do, and adds another thing that we will definitely do next week when we get into the PID tuning.
Okay.
Seeing as we're going long, I'm going to tell you from experience, don't follow me and just fly with non-calibrated motors, even though I know what I'm doing and it'll be okay. So that said,
I'm scared.
Really, don't be. Whoa. Oh, this thing's a beast. Okay.
It's going all over the place.
So I'm just kind of hovering over the table. I'm not giving it enough throttle to take off, but enough so that I can scoot around and get a feel for it.
Okay.
Now I'm using what's called the ground effect, or I will be here in a moment, where I'm creating a little cushion of air to kind of coast on while I get a feel for how naughty this controller is. Okay, I'm going to go into rate mode so that I'm a little bit more comfortable with this.
Okay.
So that's what I'm used to flying in. There we go. You want to switch to wide chin?
Ah, all right.
Okay.
That's awesome! It's
Actually,
flying!
there we go.
We built that!
Yeah, and now it's flying. Next week, we're going to get into how we got this to fly, actually I'd say fairly smoothly for the first try. This is actually in horizon mode right now, so you can see a little bit of jitter as the flight controller is trying to compensate for some things. And if I... Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, I got it. I'm actually just wiggling it on purpose. I want to see where its wiggle is. And there we go.
That was awesome!
So
I'm so happy that it flies.
Yes.
Yes, high five, man.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right, next week, we learn the fundamentals of PIDs, do some maths, tune it a little bit better, take it out into the warehouse, and then we will be doing things like the box step and walking the dog and learning to fly.
Yes.
And,
I want to do that.
And not just hover and wiggle.
I'm so excited.
But that's good. Also, don't do that if it's your first Maiden. If this is your first Maiden, take it out to a field.
Don't do this at home. Take it out in a field.
And keep it away from people's dogs. And yeah. And make sure that you're 5 miles outside of an airport and, you know, the proper stuff.
All the rules.
Oh, are there many? But it's good to follow them. That's why they're there. And we want to keep doing that so that the FAA will let us continue to have our hobby. Else we all go underground and everything gets even more fun. But they wouldn't want that. Hence us building a 230-gram quadcopter. Sorry, loopholes, I love them. Yes.
This was awesome. But before we go, we have a sticker.
Oh, we do?
Or a few.
Good. The wall is, I felt like the wall is so blank without.
I'm going to open it like this because there's
what do you have?
address stuff on here.
Oh, I see. Okay, what did we get?
Here, you read this.
Okay, thank you.
I will open
All right, so.
the box.
Aha. We have a letter. Not quite DEF CON, but we have a quarterly event that's called the Hacker Playdate, where we try to educate folks about hacking and tech. I know that you guys enjoy stickers and wanted to pass along some stickers and pins from the event. Longtime fan, circa the Hack House. Awesome. Keep up the good work. Enjoyed meeting you guys at DC 23 at DEF CON. Was amazing. Not sure if you remember or not, but
These are so cute.
Oh, I remember the hookers in the blow, definitely. And I hope, sorry, no, I was joking. And I hope to catch you at DerbyCon. Are we going to DerbyCon this year? Anyway,
I don't know.
Thank you, Cynate. And
Well, his real name's Nathan. Sorry, I just gave
well,
it
there
away.
you go. Thank you, Nathan. See, now everybody knows about Nathan and the
These are
event
so
that took
cute.
place in Las Vegas.
Yep, the hookers and blow. So it says, arrive guest, leave route.
Oh!
That's cute. That's really cute.
That's really cute.
That's awesome.
Cool.
So I think you should put one of those up. And I'm going to
Absolutely.
steal a pin because I love pins. And I collect pins.
And you will also,
I'm a nerd.
in editing, put up the address, so if people want to send stickers
Yep.
our way,
It's in the lower thirds.
there we go. They
You
can
can
go
see it
ahead.
right down
And
below.
if you're watching this
Right
in
there.
2038, one, how's that whole Unix epoch thing going? And two, oh, there we go.
Very cute.
And two, don't use whatever was in the lower third because we may not still be there. Go to hak5.org and make sure that's still legit. With that said, hak5.org is where you can go to find out all of the shows, including Hak5, Hacktip, Metasploit Minute, ThreatWire, TechThing, Pineapple University, other shows we do, Shannon and I's vlogs. If you're on the youtube.com/hak5, scroll to the very bottom and find us talking about all sorts of weird stuff. Find Shannon in Japan.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, I'm gonna do a meetup May 23rd. It's a Monday night in Tokyo, in Ueno. There's a pub that one of our TechThing fans told me about. So he said, "Hey, you should do a meetup here." And I was like, "Okay," because I don't know what else is in Tokyo. So it sounds great. So follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/snubs, and I'll post details of that on my profile right up at the top. That's
Awesome.
my plan.
Good stuff. If
Yay,
you want to find
meetup!
Yeah, that's going to be great.
I'm so excited.
Ooh, you should leave a geocache. And oh, you know what?
Ooh.
Geocaching, CQs, if you're picking up what I'm saying, I think there's lots of opportunities for fun as we travel. Let us know if you have ideas. And I will check with our ham friends to see what is possible and what is legal. That said, hak5.org/follow. That's where you'll find all of our social media stuff. And if you would like to support the show directly, no, we don't have quadcopters. You can just buy from the hack shop. It makes sense. Anyway. But we do have cool Wi-Fi hacking gear like the Wi-Fi Pineapple, both the Nano and the Tetra, which are newly released and amazing, as well as USB rubber ducky and the land turtle and all sorts of. So if you need turtles and ducks and pineapples in your life, because why wouldn't you? Go on over to the hack shop, hakshop.com. It's what allows us to have this wonderful warehouse and do these fun things for you. Thank you.
And I think that's it.
That
other
is.
than emailing us at feedback@hak5.org.
Yes, and let us know what you think about the builds and stuff. We'll continue this on if people want to see more. We'll get into FPV and batteries and all sorts of fun things. It's a rabbit hole like I told you. Or we'll just go back to mapping your network, as we do every week. With that said, next week is proportional, integral, and derivative and why they matter to quadcopters. With that, I'm Darren Kitchen.
I'm Shannon Morse.
Trust your technolust. What? What's wrong with you? I feel like I just punched someone. I don't know who it is.
Please stop punching people.
Yeah. You can take your protective eyewear off now that we're done with the episode. Just like in Vegas. You know, Nathan.